Hello. Hello, hello. Okay, let's get the view changed. Let's go full screen. And here we go again. This is the third stream in the matter of probably a week. But I feel I'm on a bit of a roll with these end games in MAME, so why not just continue? Hey Combo, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy them for the visuals and everything going on, but I never remember the moves. I have no strategy. They become pure button mashers. But hey Nikki, how you doing? Anyway, I put this one on first. Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter, because it's the one with an interesting little secret. It's not really a secret, is it? If you play the Japanese version, which is this one, you get this extra character, Norimero? I don't know how you pronounce it. And he was created by sort of a Japanese comedian in conjunction with Capcom, and for some reason, because it's a Japanese stereotype, I guess, he was left in the Japanese version and none of the others. So there you go. You know, people might overlook that because they'll just run the non-Japanese set. But if you want to have a look at the Japanese set and want to play this character, then it's well, this is a bit of a joke character, as you can see just from the animations. But he exists, and you know, you can play as him. He can fight. He slips on a banana if you use the you know, the heavy kick. Yeah, it's a nice little thing. I mean, you don't even have to put an unlock code in it. It's just there from the start. So I guess they just didn't think it was especially suitable for a non-Japanese audience or something like that. But yeah, obviously these are all over-the-top fighting games because you know the characters have got far more abilities than they would in a regular Street Fighter game, because they've got to go up against the, you know, the Marvel heroes. And Wolverine here with his claws, why it wouldn't put much of a fight without anything extra. You know. So you can always tag in your other character. Oh, there we go. That was a nice timely tag, wasn't it? Took him out with the switch. Yeah. But I think that's what makes these games fun, though, is just how much you can jump around. You've got your double jumps. You can go way above the playfield. I think this character's also meant to have a quadruple jump if you enter a special code. Yeah, the Alpha 3 sprites are really good. I mean, this was sort of Capcom, I think, on top of their game, wasn't it? I mean, you might say that Street Fighter 3 looks better, but I don't know. It's animated maybe a bit better, but I don't know if it really looks better. Oh, and well, he did not survive, did he? This is the first fight. I should not be doing badly. Oh, hey Christopher, how you doing? And hey Thomas. Yeah, button mashing on most of these games is probably a very, very good strategy. File boxing. I can't really give any links in the chat or anything. There are lots of different boxing games. I've not got any on my list because I don't think anyone will give me the M. But, this looks like such an unfair fight, doesn't it? Oh dear. Hulk smash everything. Hulk gets smashed with math class equipment. Yeah. Hulk is definitely a big character. It's like Earthquake in the Samurai Showdown games, massive sprite. I think that's why I think Earthquake was cut from the Mega Drive version, wasn't he? For Samurai, probably due to the sprite sizes. These have got lovely backgrounds. You just look at the background art, not just the sprite art, but the background art. They're so colourful, so well drawn, so many little details all over the place. You know, you don't have to be good at these Capcom fighting games to appreciate them, I find. Although helps if you could, because you might see more than a couple of stages. But I'm sure I can play again and insert another credit and maybe beat Hulk. Yeah, some tips in Japanese. Shall we just use some different characters? Shall we use a Spider-Man this time? And Omega Red, there we go. But, mix it up a little bit. Saber 2. I'm not sure if I should play X-Men vs Street Fighter. Technically, it is a Marvel game, but it doesn't have Marvel in the title, so does it begin with M? It's on my list of maybe after, depending on where we get. I don't want to play all the Capcom games in a row, so I might throw that one in at the end. I've got some rather bad things to look at as well as the good ones. I want to mix it up a little bit. We've got Spider-Man with web swing. Same with the Spider-Man plug and plays. None of them were called Marvel. Do I want to look at them or not? There's a maybe about this. But it's a loose theme, so I can probably make exceptions and play X-Men vs Street Fighter. Have a look at Sabretooth, but not immediately. Oh, there we go. Another swap in. KO. I always find the character selections they go with to be interesting in these, because they're not always the obvious ones. I mean, yes, I would say Hulk for any kind of fighting game is an obvious one, and if he's canon at the time in the Marvel universe when the games are meant to be set, it makes sense. I found it a bit odd that he wasn't in the Data East Captain America game, but apparently he was not part of the Avengers at that time. So, I don't know. But, is X-Men vs Street Fighter your favourite overall, or just your favourite character in that one? Because I think most people would say Marvel vs Capcom was their favourite, or the sequel to it. I can't really play Marvel vs Capcom 2 because it doesn't really run well in MAME. But, right. These are very fast-paced games as well. So it's very... One thing I'm finding with these streams is, for some games, it's much more difficult to judge how long to play them, because I can be playing a puzzle game for 10 minutes and not much will change. I can play one of these games, get through 3 or 4 stages and realise I've only been playing it for 5 minutes, and I don't want to move on too quickly because people might miss it. So, your perception of time when playing different types of games is very different. At least that's what I tend to find with the different genres. And of course games in general. You can play a console game and put a good hour into it and it doesn't feel like that much time has passed. But some of the strategy games especially. The amount of hours I probably spent playing something like Populous without realising it had been hours, or the Settlers on the Amiga. One reason I don't stream those, because they'd just be you'd just be watching me play them for a long time. Well, that was mean. Ryu. I love the presentation on this as well. I mean, I can say that for all of these, but you've got the announcer in the attract mode hyping everything up. It just all flows so smoothly. There's no dead air in the game. There's dead air in me talking about it because I don't always know what to say. But the game itself manages to stay very busy at all times and always saying something, always doing something, but it's not annoying in the Bubsy sort of talk all the time way, or awesome possum talk all the time way. It's hi Mitchell, how you doing? But, yes, this is definitely one of the good games I'll be looking at today. I've got some specials. I'm not doing entirely arcades either. I'll be mixing in 1 or 2 computer games and console games. Not a huge number, but just ones I wanted to look at. So we've got probably a computer game coming up after this one, and then maybe another Marvel game. But a bad Marvel game. A very bad Marvel game. I mean, if people want to guess what bad Marvel game I'm going to play later, or you know, after in a couple of games' time, answers in the chat. But it's definitely not one anybody's going to have fond memories of. I'll say that much. Well, maybe people have got fond memories of it, but I'd be very, very surprised. Has been featured on some fairly well-known, highly viewed videos. They've not put it in a positive light. Nobody wants to guess. That's alright, you can find out later. You see, I'm stuck on stage 3. I'm going to say the Japanese version is harder. But it probably isn't. I'm probably just really, really bad at this. Oh, shall we go with Wolverine? Shall we go with... Have you been up to much, Mitchell? Fireballs, lots of them. I do like air fireballs. Eat air fireball. No, that wasn't really nice. Yeah, if I think of the actual Marvel characters as well, the depictions of them in this game just seem perfect. They just seem... This was the image I have of them if I think of them. Whereas you play some of the other Marvel games and they don't look how I'd imagine the characters should look. Maybe that's just still the era of Marvel games I'm used to. Yeah, there's just so many good colours in the background, and I mean, last stream we were talking about sort of palette effects, colour cycling, and how the Japanese games don't use it much, but these games actually have a lot of palette cycling on those background effects. I mean, it's very rainbow effect, isn't it? It's noticeable for just how bright, even the KO there is flashing, cycling rainbow colours. Stage 4. Even the stage previews are perfect too. Animated backgrounds, police lights. I mean, there's just so much attention to detail on these. And I guess that's one of the reasons they, you know, aside from the actual gameplay, they're so well loved. There aren't little ugly bits or anything like that. You know, you play the Avengers Galactic Storm Data East Fighter. It's got so many ugly graphics in it, pre-rendered characters, backgrounds. I don't think it plays that badly, but it's just not appealing to look at. I'll probably put that one on later too, even though that's an A game. I think anything Marvel goes in the stream. I think that's going to be my rule. I just pretend they all start with Marvel. Oh dear. I am not doing well here. Anyway, when I die on this credit, I'm going to move on to the next game, which will be a computer game. And that is me dead. So yeah, this was Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter. You know, I really like this one. I probably, of the Marvel games, it may be the one I played the least, but the more I come back to it and have a look at it, the more I sort of think, why was this the one I played least? It seems to be just as appealing as all the others, and maybe I'm enjoying it more now because it seems fresher, because I played it less than the others. But I don't know. Yeah, lots of symbols to cycle through. There we we go. I don't know why I'm entering my name, but there we go. Straight to a nice high score table with the action in the background. Yeah. And your classic Q-Sound logo. And the Q-Sound does sound really good these days in MAME. I mean, it's just such a difference between how it sounds now and how it used to. Once you notice the difference and then you go back to an old version, it just sounds so flat. But yeah, that was Marvel Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. Now, sticking with the horizontal view. I'm going to have a look at an old computer game, and this runs a bit too fast in MAME, and it's not Marvel related, and it's a cracked version because heaven knows you can't find the original dumps of any of these software on this. I think they're out there somewhere or have been dumped, but they just don't seem available, and can't be soft listed as a result. Anyway, this is the SAM Coupe, a failed sort of follow-up to the ZX Spectrum. For some reason they thought in 1990 it was a good time to be releasing a computer that was still running on a Z80 processor. It was not a good time to release a computer on a Z80 processor. There are weight states and stuff missing, but obviously the game I'm running is not Mr. Pack, which begins with M. I might run that bit. It is Manic Miner. And so you've got a hacked up loading screen, and I don't think any of these made any money back in the day because the system had such a small install base. So this is really failed software for a failed machine, I guess you could say. And this is a port of the famous Spectrum game Manic Miner. It does have 3 different sets of levels though. We'll start with the classic levels though. And I say it runs a bit too fast, so it's a more manic version of Manic Miner, but that's not a good start. That's an even worse start. Yep, you are stuck here forever. That was a very short one on Manic Miner. I can complete the first level. But yeah, this feels almost like it would be a sort of Amiga PD port of the game rather than a proper commercial release of Manic Miner, but this is what it was. And the collision is awful. Did I mention that? I probably didn't mention that yet. Yeah, this seems to have worse collision than the original game, which is never good in a game that's all about pixel perfect jumps. Yeah, it's Manic Miner for the SAM Coupe, because I figured people probably haven't played the seamless version. Or maybe they have, but I don't know. It's just not the go-to version of Manic Miner for most people, I would say. It's still a good game though. You can't deny that the simplicity of the gameplay just works. Get everything on the screen and get off the screen. And you know, plan your route through because some of the platforms will collapse. While having a nice piece of classical music playing at you. And penguins, don't do that because that's probably ruined. And all your lives are gone just like that. And you're back at the start. We could be... Okay, I'm just going to kill myself off after doing that. I've not played it on the Game Boy Color. Is that an official one? Or is it a homebrew port? I think this is one of those games that wouldn't really work as an arcade, because it's... So you can lose all your credits far too quickly if it was an arcade, and it's just about... I don't like that jump. It's about memorising the levels as much as anything. Not really an arcade style game. Although continues would certainly help. Okay. I did actually manage to complete about 3 or 4 levels earlier. But right now, I am failing. It also feels strange to me to see the main sprite in colour like this. It's not really how I pictured, Miner Willy to look. Doesn't really look like a miner, does he? He sort of looks more like some school kid who's a bit lost in a mine. Yeah, public domain. I mean, it makes sense. There are going to be people making fan versions of it because it's such a popular game. But yeah, this shows that the SAM Coupe could do a lot more colours than, say, the Spectrum. but it was released when the 16-bit platforms were, you know, starting to take hold, or even had taken hold. So why would you buy a Z80 based computer? I mean, the question doesn't really need answering because nobody really did, which is why it was a failure. But I'm guessing a lot of people won't have played this in MAME. This version is not currently self-listed because it's so it's the cracked version. But I might add a few of the cracked discs to the soft list just to complete them a bit, because it's always important to have test cases for your emulation. There we go. That's how you do that one. Abandoned uranium workings. Now I say this is too fast. I think this is too fast because there are no wait states or anything emulated on the SAM Coupe, and it feels fast. But you know, the machine is kind of no, you don't drop that, do you? The machine is kind of uncommon, so there are original hardware videos of it, but I'm not sure. I've never played it on original hardware. I say there are 3 sets of levels, so let's have a look at some of the other levels. I don't know if these are exclusive to this version. They might be. I'm sure if they are, somebody's ported them back to other versions. Oh yeah, I forgot that. There's a conveyor belt that goes that way. Let's do this again. Yeah, you can only go that way. Oh yeah, you have to drop down here, don't you? There we go. But, you know, it's, to me this is a playable version of the game. I would think the original is always going to be significantly better. But if you're researching curiosities, what could have been, well, what was, but just didn't see any popularity, this is one of those ports that always comes to mind. I'm going to look at all 3 sets of levels. Probably not get very far in any of them before moving on. I'll give them at least one more try after this as well. Okay, you can't jump up there. So it's a shame it is a cracked version of the game, but the only other version I could find was sort of a 2-level demo, which that didn't have all the extra levels, so it's not great for demonstrating it, is it? Trapped by a train. So, has anybody here played on a SAM Coupe, a real one? I'm going to guess no, but it's always possible. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to fail it the same way again, aren't I? Jumping over toilets. What a way to go. Oh. Saved by the square. Oh, I jumped straight into that one too. Alright, so yeah, that's relatively tricky. Let's have a look at the 3rd set of levels. It's a shame they've not changed the music between the level sets, I have to say. There's only so many times you want to hear this music loop, and it's not a long music loop. Oh, hey MFM, how you doing? I did start a little bit earlier today, not much, but thank you for joining. No, I say the SAM Coupe was sort of a thing in the magazines for a couple of months, and then it was like, no, this thing's failed, let's forget about it. I kind of wanted one at the time, but was never going to get one. And it's shipped with buggy firmware as well, and just a disaster from start to finish. But there were a couple of games for it. There were a few on tape as well. For some reason, oh, I've messed this one up already. For some reason, one of the tape ones doesn't run in MAME. It just gets stuck at the end of loading. That was on a B-side of the Spectrum version. I don't know if it's a bad dump or if it just needs something in the SAM Coupe emulation that's missing. Yeah, that's what sort of happened for a while. They ended up bundling them on tape on B-sides of other things. Oh. For some reason my monitor cut out then. I hope this second monitor is not on its way out. I was left with a black screen and death. This is trickier than it. Oh, no, there's nowhere to. Can't get through there. Yeah. I also figured that there probably aren't many people who have streamed the SAM Coupe version of this, and that was nasty. I got stuck between nowhere to go, nowhere to jump over. Yeah, the SAM Coupe Manic Miner. It's a hacked version, as the scroller down there will tell you. So, you know, let's close that for now. I'm actually gonna. I might come back to that Mr. Pack that's on there too later, but not straight away. I did say I was going to go back to Marvel though, and oh dear me. Yep. The Hyperscan. If anybody was thinking the Hyperscan when I said bad Marvel games, there you go. Hey Delta Ray Studio. Now the Hyperscan emulation doesn't run quite at full speed, so you get about 80% speed here, so everything is slightly too slow. It's also got quite a few glitches. It's not perfect, and there's no sound emulation. Also, I mean, we all know what the Hyperscan's famous for, don't we? This. Loading. It takes a while, so you know. Yeah, it's got a nice logo here, hasn't it? It looks almost like a radioactive logo. But how long do you want to stare at it for? Well, this loads very, very slowly off a CD. This is why this system ended up on the worst ever lists. I'm sure if you Google or you look on YouTube and search for worst ever Hyperscan, you'll find a lovely video where they talk about the system. And yes, it is still loading. You owned one of these. I own one of these. Have you got all the cards and all the CDs? Does it still work? That's always a good question with the Hyperscan. Here we go. It's loaded. Fantastic. Oh, it's not loaded. It's still loading. Well, you've got a nice picture now. Now, the emulation isn't perfect. That's why it's still marked as not working. But this did improve dramatically last year. Before, it didn't boot any discs, but Sandro checked in something last year that made it boot all the discs and added cards to the soft lists. And I think it just did all that loading to load an animation of the Hyperscan logo that looks worse than the Hyperscan logo on boot up, because as soon as you skip this logo, it's loading again. You see, if there was a recompiler for the CPU here and it ran at full speed, at the moment it's running about 80%, like I said, a recompiler might let me fast forward through this, but I can't even fast forward through this because it's running as fast as it can. Does it work with burned discs, or do you have to have the originals? Then again, if you've not got the cards, then there's not much point, is there, for the other games? I'm surprised to know if it runs burn discs. I'm surprised nobody just hacked the game so that you can select everything you want without the cards, because that would actually maybe make it enjoyable-ish, but not very, because it's still loading. Semi-logic. Look, it's actually loaded, hasn't it? Yeah, it was a bit of a scam. Right, so one player start. Scan character or story. Well, we can do that. This is our setup in MAME. File manager, memory card, software list, Hyperscan cards. The menu's not the best organised, but we'll get down to Marvel Heroes. Ooh, what do we want? Who do we want? Character. Shall we go with Hulk? There we go. Empty slot. Then I think we can also scan an arena, can't we? Is it arena mod? I don't know. Mountain meltdown. Yeah, there we go. Empty slot. Right. Oh, your adventure begins when what it means is loading. Your adventure will begin after it has finished loading. I mean, with the Spider-Man game, it's got different pictures while it loads, at least. Most of them don't, so you're just staring at a very similar looking screen every time. Which games do you actually have on it, anyway? The wrestling one seems quite interesting to me. It's maybe the closest there is to what seems like it could maybe be an okay game. But that's not saying much. The thing is that I think the hardware had potential. It's a SPG 290 Series Sun Plus S Plus core. Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't quite run at full speed, but you get the idea. You go along and you beat people up. So yeah. Let's climb the mountain. Yeah, the I Do Go wrestling one. Have you ever had any fun with it? I mean, for me, it did look like there was potential for that one to be fun. It's got sort of quite a wacky presentation. And, you know, I'm just thinking, if there was one game I would want to own on a system, if I was unfortunate enough to own the system, it would probably be that one. Whereas this, I mean, you would have thought also that the companies would have learned from mistakes like this. But then the final handful of Jack-specific plug and plays were those Hero Portal ones, which sort of went with a very similar concept. Okay, maybe the concept now is being popularised more by things like Skylanders, where you're scanning your models, but still selling models separately, making you have to scan things. To me, it's not a good way to design a game. This just took it to extremes. You know, with everything being scanned and having to buy the packs of cards and spend a fortune just to try and get the characters you wanted randomly. But I don't know. I just don't like it as a game, design idea. It's putting the gameplay second to the system design and trying to make money out of the system. And it's not the same as collecting cards or anything like that go in sticker albums, really. To me, it's just trying to squeeze as much money out of people as possible, wasn't it? And it was on the market for such a short amount of time that half the people didn't get the cards they wanted and anything else. Continue the fight. You mean loading, don't you? But as you can see, the games are somewhat playable in MAME. They're not perfect. The driver does still need some work, but I'm kind of glad to see it emulated, because it's one of those systems that, well, they're all starting to break. All the hardware's starting to break, and obviously it's not fun to play. And people are probably just going to start to throw them away and scrap them, or try and sell them for ridiculous prices if they still work. Because I've started to notice that with some of these things. People are starting to ask ridiculous money for them. Because I assume they think people have seen worst ever videos and are going to want to go out and buy them just to see if they're really as bad as they are. Or know that people have just binned half of them and they're failing. I don't know. Getting it with the plug and plays. I don't know if those pauses happen on real hardware or if it's just an emulation thing. But yeah, this is just mindless, really. You know, you come across a strong... You beat some weaker characters and you come across a stronger character. And then you beat him up. I'm hoping the sound gets emulated. I think the sound might be somewhat similar to the later Sun Plus ones that still haven't been emulated. I've not actually watched the last movie yet. Where's the character gone? Have I glitched the game? Maybe I've glitched it. Do I care if I've glitched it? Probably not. Let's just jump around with Hawk a bit. I mean, I could have selected different characters. There are software list entries for all the different character cards. But, oh no, I can climb here, can't I? I forgot you can climb. It's probably run off here, hasn't it? Or running through lava. Oh, maybe I just beat him up without looking. Oh, look. Thanos is waiting. I am waiting. Am I Thanos? Is that what it's telling me? That's one way to think about it. So how long should I spend on this? Probably not much longer, because I'm sure you've seen enough. I'll let this load. I'll have a look at what this next level is, and then I'll probably quit and play something different. I'm thinking we can go 8-bit arcade after this. Not Marvel, but an 8-bit arcade game I think would be appropriate. Oh look, it looks just like the other level. Well, you know, you have to wonder what it actually loaded, because it seems to be the same graphics. It's just a slightly different layout. Has it reloaded all the assets just to have the stage that's basically the same as the previous stage? Is the asset management on the game that bad? Probably. You know, but we're repeating the same thing. Pick up boulder, throw boulder, beat person up. That's always the same person. There's no real game here, is there? So there we go. I will stop playing before I start to try and smash things like Hulk. Right, okay. So 8-bit arcade game. Is this vertical or horizontal? The Neo CD has very long load times, but at least with the Neo CD, it's loading content that's worthwhile. You know, Neo CD has long loading times because it's trying to load absolute ton of data on a really slow CD drive into a large amount of memory to get all the arcade graphics in there. That's just loading inefficiently stored data, I think, and reloading things that it doesn't really need to reload, and you know, spending ages. I don't think it can stream data, so it spends ages loading FMVs on some games that just last a couple of seconds, and then loads something else, and it's just not well programmed. Or I'm assuming that, you know, the software, the development software they had for it was terrible. Anyway, this is Mr. Goemon, a Konami arcade game. You know, a nice classic 80s one. So let's have a little play of something a bit different. Not one I play much of, and not one I really see talked about much. Up is jump. That is not your standard for arcade games. There's up is jump here. Now, Konami had other run-along, beat-up character games. There's Sheldon's Road, Kicker, and this kind of reminds me of that in some ways. although obviously it's quite different too. But it's still run along, beat up characters, onslaught of enemies. So it's almost your Kung Fu Master formula from Irem, but there's more of a scrolling game. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to put up with load times, I'm sure you'd rather put up the Neo Geo ones, even if they're a bit longer, because the actual games are worth playing. Yeah, I mean, the Neo CD obviously was not the best design either, but it's pretty much unavoidable. I don't think there were faster CD drives available at the time, and they wanted to get the full Neo Geo experience on there, and it obviously did well enough. People still want to buy them these days. I'm surprised there was not a bigger homebrew scene around it, or people trying to do things that the original Neo Geo couldn't. I mean, if you look at what's on the Neo CD, there are very few games that try and use it in anything other than porting the arcades. I mean, the Samurai Showdown, the RPG thing, that's actually using the CD technology to store a lot more in terms of game content rather than graphics. It's using it more like a console and less like an arcade platform. And this is not an arcade style game either. But yeah, it was a bit underused, but I guess it just wasn't SNK's primary market, so maybe not too surprising. So this, I think I've only played this one once or twice before this stream. I just see the title and I don't associate it with being a Konami platform game. No, it clearly is. It's actually quite a good little Konami platform game. There you go. I get the time is represented by the moon, or I assume it's the moon passing over the sky. Or is it the sun? It appears to be the moon because I think this is set at night. Oh well, I died. I'll give this one another credit. Oh. I didn't get very high on that high score table. I like the music on this too. It's got that classic sort of Konami 8-bit sound to it. Always remember to actually throw the things you pick up too. I can throw a cat. I mean, not a real cat. Don't throw real cats, they don't like it. So, anybody been up to anything fun lately? Found any new games you've enjoyed yourselves, or managed to actually get out the house a little bit? Or is everybody still quite locked down? I know here in the UK we're being sort of given dates for when things can potentially be a bit more normal, which is something to look forward to. Still not sure how normal will be, but we'll see. Let's use surf down there. I think the sprites are quite big in this for an 8-bit game. They're intentionally styled this way, so they're very wide-looking sprites, and that's not a look you see on all that many games. Wider than they are tall. There we go. Oh, that's the moon. Well, that's a moon. Was the other still the moon? I don't know. I don't know if this was ported to any home computers either. It's not one I'm aware of if it was. I know Charlemagne's Road got some ports, but I've not ever played a port of this one at least. This is the last credit on this one before I move on. I'm going to try and do the actual Marvel fighters probably on the hour. Well, not well, on the hour of streaming relative to when I started. Is that me dead? I think that's me dead. Yeah, that's me dead. Okay. So yeah, this is Mr. Goeman. I did a bit better that time, didn't I? Still didn't break the top 3, but a bit better. Right. Shall we have a look at another Mr. game? Hey, Mr. Drome. I was just thinking, Mr. Game? Mr. Drome? I don't have a game called Mr. Drome, but I might have a game called Mr. Dig? Japanese Robin Hood. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't research much on that game before. Mr. Dig is somewhat fascinating. It's by Sun, apparently. And the thing with this is it's Mr. Driller. It really is Mr. Driller. Whoever made this must have been shown a video of Mr. Driller and asked to trace out every scene, every graphic, but do it in their own art. And the score there was KFC, wasn't it? Now I want chicken. And that just amazes me. I find it fascinating why they've done that. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yes. See, the story here is the Mr. Driller one. This whole scene is the Mr. Driller attract scene, but redrawn. It's coming from the comic books. Maybe the Marvel comics. Yes, second KFC. The colour block comes from 1,000 metres beneath the earth. But yeah, again, this whole attract scene is copied straight from Mr. Driller, but with new art. No, not stolen, traced. And the game is obviously a copy of Mr. Driller in terms of gameplay. But it's all the it's the Mr. Driller itself runs on PlayStation type hardware. This runs on Sun Plus hardware, so it's all been recoded. It's not a case of I've already lost a life. It's not a case of it's a bootleg of the game. It's a re-implementation of the game. I've lost another life. I'm doing very badly at it. I guess it must have been a copy of the game in Asia because some of the plug and plays also have Mr. Driller clones, and that was a very bad performance. But I was looking at one of the handheld multi games, and it's got its own implementation of Mr. Driller there too. Not as cloned as some game concepts, but definitely kind. Also, this seems to be more difficult to start off with than Mr. Driller. I have to say that much. It's not giving me much of a chance. No, I'm not too bad at Mr. Driller usually. But see, bombs just there in inconvenient places blow me up. So how well did I do? Not well at all. Shall we try that again? I think maybe the 500 meter challenge is easier. I think the 1000 meter challenge throws you right into the deep end straight away. No, no, oh no, no! Don't like bombs. I managed to avoid that one. I'd say skillfully, but it was more a case of about as skillful as that. Yeah, I know Mr. Driller was really hyped up when the Dreamcast came out, and I think it's another one of those that was probably misguided in the hype, because people didn't really want a 2D game on the Dreamcast, did they? Same with Choo Choo Rocket. There's nothing wrong with it as a game, but it's not a system seller. You could have done it on the Mega Drive, and somebody even did a Mega CD port of it. And, likewise this. You know, it's a fine game, but if you just bought a brand new system that's meant to be showing off the next generation of gaming, and your game is a 2D puzzle game that was originally on PlayStation hardware, it's just not really going to sell systems, is it? Anyway. But yeah, this was one of those very strange rip-offs to find, because it just tries to copy every element of the game. But it actually doesn't do a terrible job of it. It's still a playable implementation of the game. It's fast, it's smooth. No, it's not perfect. But they've actually got the gameplay elements in there. So when I die, which is now... Oh, I'm not quite dead. I thought I was dead. And the Mr. Driller games, I'd really like to get the sequels emulated too, but they're all on Namco System 10, and there's still encryption protection problems. I think it's more protection at this point than encryption. But Mr. Driller 2 runs on a different type of board to most of them, and does start. I think it does show the boot up warning message and everything, and then gets stuck after that these days. Whereas some of the other System 10 games, it's possible there's data hidden away in one of the custom chips as well, because there seems to be stuff missing from the flash ROMs, and the custom chip sits between the flash ROMs and the main CPU. We're not sure. And the encryption seems to be mostly understood, but still bits are missing. Yeah, Choo Choo Rocket would probably work these days. I mean, people are more receptive to that type of game now, I think. It's just, at the time, 2D was seen as sort of old and nobody wanted it, and these days, you know, there's a bit of, you know, had a bit of a comeback. As you've seen from things like Sonic Mania being the most popular of the Sonic games. I need oxygen. Yeah. Oh, that's no good. Ran out of air. Anyway, yeah, I say this is Mr. Dig. I'm just going to put Mr. Driller on, the original, just for comparison's sake. But you can see they even copied the style of the font. But yeah, I'm going to have to revisit if nobody else gets to it, I'm going to have to revisit System 10 and see if I can figure something out with it, because I'd really like to see it running. I just got stuck every time I looked at it. It's one of those where I have sat down with disassemblies of the code for hours and stared at them for, you know, probably a couple of 100 hours sometimes, and just got absolutely nowhere, and had not even a single line of code to submit. But yeah, you can see the background's art's the same, the high score table's the same. It's not using any of these graphics, they're all redrawn. But then you've got to say, they've got the story. The same story, but this is a different, this is the original art. And they traced over it. It was a lot of work for just ripping off a game. just, you know, because it's not really even a bootleg, so it doesn't show any code. It's all coded from scratch, but it's completely unoriginal. So yeah, you can coin this up. Let's just have a quick credit of it. You've got different you know, modes, unless the original Japanese version has 500 meters, 1,000 meters, but that might be the case. This looks a lot nicer because this is a high resolution. But it is the same game. I think there's probably a PS2 version, yeah. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't. It was around that time. It was hugely popular. The arcade versions are mostly on PlayStation 1 type hardware, but it's upgraded PlayStation 1 hardware. Yeah. This is the original. Anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time playing Mr. Driller. I did say on the hours I would be going back to the Capcom fighters. So let's go with maybe the biggest one, which is Marvel vs. Capcom. Interesting fact, for the longest time, I think it's the parent set of this, had a badly dumped ROM, which did cause the game to reset during some of the endings. I think that was redumped 3-4 years ago, maybe a few more now. But yeah, the ROM checks in the service mode of CPS 1 and 2 games aren't great. They don't actually check everything and can easily be fooled into passing, so it was passing the ROM check but actually still had a bad dump. But, you know, it's been verified and fixed, and a good dump is present now for all the sets as far as I know. I think maybe some of the Phoenix sets still have the bad data in because they were created, and the bootlegs were created when it wasn't known the data was bad. But the world has moved on from using those and killing boards to put Phoenix ROMs on, because you can repair the original boards and restore the suicide battery keys now, thankfully. So things can be repaired properly rather than having to be hacked. And that, you know, outside of MAME, that's a big step forward, because you don't want to be running bootleg code on boards. You want to be running the original code if you can. And the original code doesn't have some of the bugs that the Phoenix versions have, because especially with this type of game, you have to create the Phoenix versions, you have to separate the code and data, and it was very easy to miss something too. So there are quite a few bugs in those versions that people were experiencing. So having a proper way to repair them was very important. Anyway, this is Marvel vs. Capcom. I find the presentation here slightly more plain than the previous one, Street Fighter versus Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, even. Which way around is it? Yeah, I know, you know the one I mean. But, maybe it's because they've tried to cram more content in here. They've had less room for all the flashy presentation, because you've got all the support characters, you've got everybody else. But it seems a little more stripped back in that sense, although there's more content in terms of characters in game. The supporting characters. I'm not aware of any fancy bonus features and hidden characters or secret characters, any versions of this like we had with the previous one. Yeah, region exclusive characters. It's nice to have Mega Man here as a playable character. Plays very differently to the actual Mega Man games, just like everybody in this. I mean, does have his own dedicated pair of games on CPS hardware. But they're almost their own genre. I've looked at one of them in another stream. Sort of boss beat 'em up style game rather than a one-on-one fighter. Yeah, there are Capcom collections on the PlayStation. There's the one with Super Ghouls and Ghosts on too. People sometimes say that was a SNES exclusive. I mean, it was originally on the SNES, but the Saturn and PlayStation did get the Super Ghouls and Ghosts game on a compilation. So maybe that was the one you saw. It's a pretty good compilation to have, really. Before the games were emulated, those compilations were really the only way you could play some of the games at home. And it's interesting to see how they hold up compared to the proper emulation. Most of them are lacking certain things, some drop frames of animation, or imperfect graphics in places, not always some of the sounds sometimes off. A lot of them weren't emulation based, so there are ports and things didn't quite go perfectly. Or some of the early ones were based on early emulation technology, which wasn't as good. Because if you're emulating stuff in the mid-90s, you're quite a lot behind the understanding we have now. And obviously also if you're targeting something like the PlayStation, you've not really got enough CPU power to do proper emulation, so you've got to HLE half of it. I know people did port some emulators to the original PlayStation, NES emulator, but they weren't great. Again, really nice music on this one. You can really tell, the sound does feel like it's positioned and everything else, which I guess is what they were going for with the Q sound. Captain Commando, of course, from Captain Commando. And Strider Haru from Strider. That's one of the good things about these games, the cameos you get. It's just a shame there's not a proper Strider game like the first Strider game. I'm not keen on any other sequels, the official sequels to that. I'd much rather play Ozman. I'm not very good with this character though. I don't know any of these moves. Oh dear, it's quite slow. Huh. Oh well. This was a very poor performance by me. I mean, you've sort of come to expect very poor performances on fighting games, but I think even by my standard that was poor. Let's be Captain America and Venom. And I think I'm going to follow the pattern after this one of going and having a look at a computer game. Not sure which one yet though. I'll have to have a look at my list. I did note a few down that I could look at. Not often nothing exceptional. Some of them are just, I found a random M game and thought, yeah, I'll play that for a bit. So that's probably going to be one of those. Random M game. And see how I feel about it. Nice. Full screen web attack. Eat my brains. Oh dear. Is that what Spider-Man did? Captain America in green does look a bit wrong. Really good animation on all the sprites, as you expect. Anybody have any opinions on the filters being used? Generally, the feedback's been positive. Is it coming across okay for everybody? My concern is maybe for if people are using lower bit rates, they're going to look quite bad. But I've not had anybody ask me to turn them off yet, so I'm thinking probably keep them. Give that TV look, monitor look. I think if you're watching the replay, if you're watching the stream replays at least, I think it looks quite good. And I'm enjoying playing them with the effects on too. Just gives it a slightly more nostalgic feel. Yeah, they're subtle, but they're there. It's better than just having a sort of smoothed out, filtered image. Yeah, I do like the improvements that went into the filters in the previous main release. I'm not noticing any significant delay or anything like lag being introduced by using the filters. So I think I'm going to keep them on if people are happy with them. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think the previous one, Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter, has a bit more detail going on, a bit more overall presentation. I think to get everything from Marvel vs Capcom, in this one they probably did have to cut a bit out, but they're still high quality games. I just don't know why they didn't, just add extra banking hardware or something to get a bit more capacity out of it, rather than cutting some corners. I said that with Vampire Savior, Vampire Hunter 2. They could have put it in a single game. They would just had to add a little bit of extra hardware into the CPS cartridge. But it would have been worth it, I think. So, I don't know. I mean, you saw other companies doing that all the time. Adding a little extra video bank or something like that. I don't think there's a space issue which meant they couldn't do it. And I'm sure there must be ways to pick up rights inside the cartridge, because most of the hardware was inside the cartridges. But yeah. Okay, you've had about 10 minutes of Marvel vs Capcom. So, shall we have a look at something else? I might come back to some of these later, but the next Marvel game will probably be about an hour again. Well, the next fighter on the 2-hour mark. So, okay, as I said, a computer game. Oh, I know which one I'm going to go with, actually. I'm going to go with this one because it seemed very nice. This is a shooter on the X68K. I believe this is pretty much Japanese homebrew type thing, although it's got a company name, copyright. I don't quite know what the situation was with them. Look, you've got lovely rastery rose scroll effects, some nice music. It's called Mikkun Fly, and it's credited to Brace. The main calls it doujin, which I don't know. And that term gets used a lot. But, quite arcade-like in its presentation, I feel. Slightly Twinbee-ish with the clouds, maybe? I don't know. I was going through the X68K software list and seeing which games began with M and trying them out, and this one came up. Although I've already lost a life, that's not a good start. I've already done Futari the other week. I might do it on a recap stream, but I'm not recapping stuff today. Is the volume okay on this? It actually seems quite loud, but it's not always easy for me to tell. Yeah, the X68K, the problem is it's a computer, so you've got all the usual problems associated with it being a computer. You have to know how to use it in some cases for the games that don't just automatically work. Luckily this is one of the ones that did seem to just automatically work. And I died already. Okay. Well, that's the worst I've done at this game. But there you go. Let's give it another try. But yeah, this seems like one of those close to arcade quality games the X68K is known for. It's fast, it's smooth, it's colourful, it's challenging. And I never heard of it until I was, researching for this stream. So I'm glad I did a little bit of research there. And that is one of the things with MAME, there's always that potential for doing a bit of research, looking into things you might not know about, and discovering games. It's one of the reasons I still enjoy looking through what's in the software lists. I have to go through a lot of bad things to find ones that are fun, but there are ones that are fun in there. There's some that don't, some X68K games that I couldn't get to boot at all. Maybe they need different configurations and just went straight into a bullet there. You can alter your shot types here too, which I did. Oh dear. Lost 2 lives before the loss. So you've got a nice bullet pattern. Vertical bullets here, that's a bit different. You don't really see that on many games, this type of attack pattern. The time I played this earlier, it spawned without all the clouds. I don't know if that was a glitch, or if the clouds spawning depends on how you've done somewhere else in the level. It's even got different music for the different bosses and different stages. Which, if I get past the stage, you'll see. It's a big if, because I just died. There we go. I died immediately at the start of stage 2. That is a little unfair when it spawns things straight behind you, but... okay, that was a bad start to stage 2. There are a lot of hidden gems. There are a lot of shooters on the X68K. I just don't always remember the titles, but if you just Google X68K doujin shooters, you'll find a list of loads of them. I'll give this another go, actually, because I did want to show a bit of stage 2 off and not just die immediately. But it might be one of those games where I can't play and talk. I don't know. Yeah, this seems worth spending time on. Even if I bet there aren't many stages and it's just going to be one of those mainly trying to play for beat your own high scores, sort of caravan style things. Although this isn't timed, it's probably similar. But I really don't know that much about it. It feels like one I want to play more of, even outside of the stream. The title's in the bottom left corner of the image to the the broadcast, along with the software list name and everything else. Oh dear. second time I featured X68K on the stream. I did have a look at the Bubble Wobble port with the secret mode in one of the earlier streams. It's definitely one of those systems that is worth exploring the library on. It also has auto fire, which is handy. I can just hold down the fire button, which means you're not hearing me tapping fire the whole time. There we go. Just trying to concentrate a bit there, so you know, being a bit quiet because of that. Quite a few bonus lives too, I think, because I've got 3 left now, even though I lost one. Right. Keep away from the bottom of the screen. Super around here. Let's change to this attack. There, now I can shoot backwards. Knowing which attack formation to use is always handy. Don't crash into things, that's stupid. Stay between the beams. Don't hit things. It does get very tricky. Let's see if you want to kill it. I think it does time out of its own accord if you don't. I think that's what happened the first time I fought it. Now the text has just become a little bit hard to read there. Yeah, see, it's timed out there. But you don't need to read the score right now. And here's the boss for this one. And I just crashed straight into it. Now the bosses are always referred to as her, which did make me worry at first that this was going to have inappropriate cutscenes, but it does not appear to do so, and I've been killed off already though. But yeah, this was a fun little one I found while researching the stream. Called Mikkun Fly. So yeah, just have a look at it, I guess, if you want to. I mean, you don't have to, but I had fun with it, so I think a lot of work has been put into this game. It could easily have been an arcade, I think, this, based on what I've seen of it. There you go. Where next? Ooh. I can't go Mushihime-Tama, but I can go Mushihime-Tama. So this is the spin-off puzzle game that's like Mushihime-Tama, same sort of same world, but it's more of a sequel to Upoko. I think I might have played this on an older stream before I was doing the M games. But there we go. Now this one has got a fully voiced demo with music and everything else. Hold on. Let me turn the volume up, it's quite low on this. Sort of karaoke style intro. But I don't want to spend too much time on that actually, because you know it's probably going to end up being content ID'd or something. But yeah, if you like quirky intros, you've got a full sing-along intro. And in terms of gameplay, you've got, well, Upoko, but with different graphics and different themes. I do probably prefer Upoko's cat underwater themed graphics, but you know, the gameplay is solid here and it's still good fun, so You can't really go wrong, can you? If you wanted a game like Namco with more levels to play. You've got to rescue the bug in this case. So, clear everything that's trapping the bug, and the bug will fly up, and then you clear the level. Simple puzzle game. Again, like Poco, you play it with just the one button during gameplay. You know, up to skip through cutscenes, down to watch the balls. And there are different bonuses. You know, if you've managed to clear the question mark blocks before you rescue the creature, then you get extra bonuses. And there's different strategies to the different levels. So here there's a question mark really low down, and you can try and go for that rather than rescue the creature straight away. Or you can just try and clear the stage. Obviously if you're trying to do the get the question mark, you're risking running out of time if you don't get your balls right, the timing. But then I didn't get the question mark, I just got the rescue done because I made a few bad shots on that one. Have to be careful here. No, not like that. Help me. Nope. Oh, I'm doing quite badly on this stage. There we go, I recovered it. Again, the question mark would have been much more tricky to get. And this does have boss stages, which hopefully I will reach. I have really missed this one. That is how you mess up a stage on this game. It's quite embarrassing, really. That's the satisfying way the stages can enter so quickly. Get something right. Now I think maybe this game does go a bit over the top with the blending effects and can look a bit garish as a result. But you get used to it. Should be it, yeah. Right, this is what I mean by boss fight. You're going to hit the target on the bottom of the eye to stop it getting too high up. So it's always moving, but you're not going to get too many hits on the first time. The subsequent bosses, you have to be more accurate. You missed like 1 or 2 shots and you've lost. Yeah, slightly different gameplay mechanics. You've got these cloudy balloons. So you can pop by landing on them. it's a challenging game. It doesn't mess around. It starts to, push the playfield up very early on. You have to have a plan for each stage, otherwise you will be punished. Nope, failed. Well, I don't want to play too much of this one because I know puzzle games, I prefer to say for, puzzle game streams, because there seems to be a specific audience that enjoys them more, and if I've said that this is going to be a Marvel fighting stream, it's probably a different audience. So I'll quit that one for now. But I will be doing more puzzle streams in the future because there's so many puzzle games out there that I enjoy. And that is one of them. As terrible as my performance on it was. But as I said, I'm going to bend the rules a bit here. Yeah, I'm surprised because it'd be a good mobile game because you can just do it one button touch. I'm going to go with the Data East Avengers in the Galactic Storm. I mean, it doesn't have Marvel in the title, but it's a Marvel game, so we can pretend. Now this, compared to the Capcom fighters, this does look ugly.
Marvel Comics Avengers in Galactic Storm!
It's got Marvel Comics Avengers in Galactic Storm, there you see. So it counts. But, yeah. Now the emulation of this is not yet perfect either. And I don't know why. Well, it's one I've researched, but I'll get to it in a bit. Now, from what I can tell, there's meant to be a rose squall effect on the floors, which looks like it's done with a raster interrupt. However, for the driver, I've actually hooked up the raster interrupt effects because Stadium Hero uses them extensively. But if I hook up the raster interrupt effect on this, it doesn't seem to update the registers that would be needed to rose squall the floor. And it is doing like 240 partial updates, so it's rendering current memory state every frame. But still, there's no rose squall on the floor. So I don't know if it's going to be something really odd, like found with Sector 2 hardware, or 2. But I've not managed to figure it out yet, and I'm 99% sure it's missing. You can't tell as much on this stage. But some of the other stages have other elements in the scrolling that aren't in sync with the ground. Could be because this is SX2 based, whereas the other games on the platform are ARM based, but it still seems to be triggering into it properly. Hook it up to. Yeah, shoot 'em ups don't really work on mobile. I've tried playing a few, and you can. The ones where you control the ship with your finger just feel very imprecise. Touch motion movements are even worse. A single screen touch puzzle game would be perfect. It's maybe more surprising because Capcom pretty much abandoned shooters and they're doing dating simulation and stuff like that, so you would have thought, yeah, they'd port it. No, signs this could be a good. This is where you really notice there's a rose squall effect missing. Look, because look at the posts and how they don't sync up the rest of the ground. Would if I could actually across the screen. They just sort of slide. They're only in the right position at the edges. So that does suggest a rose squall. Unless it is genuinely a rose squall effect, not a raster effect, or a different table. That would be the other set of hardware. Giant gear effect, that's a rose squall table, not a raster effect. I don't know. But there's something missing. The way it says the loser there, I think, is good. Just make you feel like you're lost. It doesn't announce the other character as the winner, it just calls you a loser. Is this a terrible game? I think if the Capcom Marvel games didn't exist, people would probably quite like this one. But because the Capcom games do exist, no, this doesn't get a look in. It's obviously not as good as the Capcom games. And it sort of ends up falling the same fate as many Data East fighters. Overlook the other games. Fighters history is the same. People just go, oh, Street Fighter rip off. Go and play it. So again, not the best character lineup. Not the best character graphics. Doesn't play terribly. At least not to someone like me who's not great at these games in the first place. The MLC system hardware is actually fascinating. There's so much it can do that I don't think is ever fully realised. It even supports multiple screens, which I think the Hoops games can use, but not hooked in MAME yet. It's got all the windowing effects. It's got very Setter-like in the spriteless actually. There's multiple levels in direction. Just makes me wonder if some parts of the design were influenced by that. A bit like CPS3 is very Setter-like. So probably the least Data East-like platform. Although I think it is one where there is a flickering sprite effect. So, you know, there's always the sound there. I noticed with one of the set of sound updates can be checked in with a comment that it seemed very similar to CPS3 there too. So it looks like it wasn't just the video side of CPS3 that was very close to some Setter stuff. It's the Mirai chip. Looks like it's probably maybe related to the CPS3 sound. This does stand out in the Data East hardware though. Maybe the most impressive game on it is actually down to Rock Paper Scissors type thing I've just done recently. Which is a strange thing for me to be saying, because the Rock Paper Scissors game isn't much of a game, but the presentation on that is actually superb. It's properly drawn art, not just pre-rendered stuff. Just really busy, really big sprites, lots going on. The highest budget Rock Paper Scissors type game that I've been seeing. This one's quite loud actually, isn't it? I'm just going to turn the volume down a bit. I didn't realise this one was quite as loud as it was. Sorry about that. I've just noticed the bars hitting red. So, if any of them are too loud, just drop me a note in the chat and I'll turn them down. I didn't remember to turn it down after turning it up for the arcade game. Sometimes I do wonder if MAME could do this, being able to load a database of volumes to normalise the volume, for normalising the volumes. But that would probably have to be some sort of plug-in. Because for streaming, it's not always ideal to have the volumes all over the place. But it's obviously necessary to actually present things properly within the emulation. If games are quieter naturally or need more headroom for the mixing or anything else, you can't really just overdrive them all the time. One thing I've noticed with a lot of the plug and plays is just how bad the sounds are on them, because they've tried to overdrive them just to make them louder. And that's not an emulation problem, that's just how they are on the hardware. The Capcom one that Jax did is pretty bad for the sound quality for that reason. They wanted their plug and play to be loud. Oh dear, didn't last long enough. Yeah, I think I'm going to have another look into the missing row scroll effect here. Hey, good afternoon, Peter. How you doing? It's one of those, I think, where I'm going to have to look to see if there's any better original hardware videos now, just to make sure it's used on every stage. Because maybe I've been looking at stages that don't have a row scroll effect, but again, my gut feeling tells me they all should have. Unless it is just really ugly game design, but that doesn't feel like it should. It is. It feels like there is something missing. You know, the MLC hardware is complex with a lot of bits and lots of registers and things that aren't quite fully understood. So there could be something hiding in there that I've overlooked. Tried to solve the problem the wrong way, and that's where I've not managed to ever find it. You been up to much today, Peter? Just enjoying a Sunday. Anyway, I have lost. I'm a loser, apparently. Yeah, this was Data East's attempt to do a Marvel fighting game, an Avengers fighting game. It's okay, it's just nothing special, and it's kind of ugly, and I'd like to improve the emulation of it, which is why I decided to bring it up. Ooh, I think we can squeeze another game in before we go back to Capcom Fighters, can't we? I'm going to go with a really quite bad, from what I could tell, Bomberman clone to pass 5 minutes or so. Ooh, I'll put it on the mouse. The Atari, the Acorn Archimedes, is marked as not working, but some games work, and there have been improvements. And I did notice that even two of the ones marked in the software list as not working seemed to work. The golf one seemed to work. I'm not playing golf. I am playing Quake. Yeah, I did the fighter stream, and we saw some bad ones there. I mean, Avengers is certainly better than Pit Fighter or Survival Arts, quite a few of the others. But, anyway, this is basically Bomberman, and the controls are a bit wrong. And I've already failed by putting a bomb. Oh no, I've not failed yet because I had a shield on. But it's got very Amiga PD sound effects. I think it is a PD game, but it's on the Acorn instead of the Amiga. I've never been a huge fan of Bomberman in the first place, if I'm honest. But there weren't many Acorn M games to pick from. There was this, and there was Magic Pockets, which seems like quite a bad Bitmap Brothers game. But maybe I just don't know how to play it. There was the golf game, which didn't seem much fun, and I've got other golf games coming up. I'm assuming I have to find the exit now, which is one thing that really annoys me on many of these Bomberman games. It's like, well, I've killed the enemies, but now I just have to blow everything up and hope I find an exit. I mean, it's just one of those games I've never really understood why people get so excited about, even multiplayer. But, this version is of course Quake, but it's still Bomberman, isn't it? It's just Euro PD Bomberman. When I say PD, I think it's PD. It feels like PD. I kind of hope it's PD. Yeah, your explosions get really big as well, so, you know, there aren't always safe places in this one once you've picked up all the power-ups. No, don't be there. That's a stupid place to be. I'm sure I can drop lots of bombs now, but it's not always a good idea. So, yeah, even multiplayer though, as I say, I never found Bomberman to be that much fun. I don't get it. I guess I couldn't even manage it with 3 lives. No, I couldn't. I will not beat you, high score. The one thing with the Archimedes is it's a really good system, but because it was never the most popular of home computers, it's mostly in schools, the selection of games is somewhat underwhelming. You've got a nice ARM processor, but very little that shows it off. And this could have easily been done on the Amiga. Maybe it was also on the Amiga. I've not really looked. This was just a case of kill a bit of time. Get lots of bomb pickups. I think I can only drop 3 bombs still though. I think that is the maximum that lets you drop at any one time. I trapped myself. That wasn't clever. You can only drop 3 bombs, no matter how many. I think I just blew up a question mark power. Get the question. Oh, the question mark's a shield. Okay. I don't know how long it's going to last. Oh no, I can drop more bombs. I can drop 5 bombs. That's interesting. Although you can trap yourself, and I forgot that, so that was stupid. So let's not play a Bomberman ripoff because I'm really bad at it. No. But there you go. Just thought I'd fire up something on the old Archimedes and show that you can play some games on it. And it's probably a nice little test for the ARM emulation, really, isn't it? I know some of them still hit unknown coprocessor opcode things, so if somebody's interested in improving ARM behaviour, the Acorn Archimedes is probably a good one to be looking at. I've still got another 10 minutes before I do another Capcom game. That means I've got to find something else to play before that. That's quick. So let's go. Nintendo. Early Nintendo. Is this vertical? I think it's vertical. Yes, vertical. This is Nintendo's Monkey Magic from 1979. So, you know, this predates all their famous ones. Yeah, you probably do need the right group of friends, competitive environment, people who winding each other up or something like that. There's no sound on this because I've not got the samples, but yeah, this is early Breakout style, Arcadia style thing from Nintendo, where you've got to push these things up into the monkey's head. And hold on, this is analog, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to relaunch this with mouse support. It's probably a little bit easier. There we go. I said easier. Maybe it's not easier. Maybe I'm just terrible at it. But yeah, this is, I believe, fully CPU driven, because a lot of Breakout games, early ones, had a lot of non-CPU elements still. I think Sun one was emulated recently, probably the latest version, or maybe the version that's out next. And that seems to, I think that's got some non-CPU elements. Time Attacker is another with non-CPU elements, but this is a bit different because you're not really destroying bricks like you'd expect in this type of game. You're just using the elements on screen to destroy the monkey head in parts. I guess the concept hadn't really been refined fully, or people were just trying out different things after Atari's Breakout. You see things like Namco's GB, that's also got a bat and ball thing, but it's closer to a pinball. And those games almost stopped appearing with the same level of creativity after a while. It just became use the ball to destroy the wall, or it's pinball. But this is quite hard to get the aim where I want it to go. Yeah, I don't know why. You know, the whole game is just about destroying this monkey, but it is. And it's not like Donkey Kong. I don't think this is the first appearance of, Donkey Kong as a monkey head. At least I've never read anything like that. I suppose if Nintendo remade it, it might be. Even this pushing up the key thing is familiar, though, isn't it? If you played, which one of the Donkey Kong games is it where you're pushing the keys up to the top? Is it Junior? Climbing the ropes and pushing the keys up. I know it was in that knockoff game I played the other day. But yeah. We can just make up our own lore for this, can't we? But yeah, Nintendo did have some other earlier titles. They're just never really the biggest arcade company. They focused on the home market quite early on, after a few arcade successes. And then got their name into a few other things which weren't really related. The whole Ultra 64 story with on the games which weren't even Nintendo 64 related hardware at all. Genius marketing, but really just one big lie. Yes, this monkey does not seem happy with me. Becoming a very sick-looking monkey. Also, I don't know why it's called Monkey Magic, because there doesn't appear to be much magic going on here. But, it's one of those where hopefully one day the sound circuits will be traced out and emulated. Now we're just drawing the top. You see how the stage evolves in what you're doing over time, and that's the structure of this one. Oh. see. Let's try and see how far I can get anyway. Oh, but I'm losing the balls quite quickly now. The trails actually help here from the filter, because I can judge better than I would otherwise where the ball's going to go. It's an unexpected side effect. It's not really making me any better at the game, but I feel more confident in where things are going, but still managed to miss it. There you go. I'm being laughed at by the monkey. I can imagine it's going ha 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 ha. I don't know. I mean, I see no reason why it wouldn't appear, but it's very, very dated. I mean, it's not really violent. You're just dissecting this monkey part piece by piece. And if they wanted to retheme it as Donkey Kong, they probably could, but that would maybe make it a little more violent. I don't know. It's just one of those old curiosities, really, isn't it? I think we're a little bit early on the Capcom. But I think I will now go with the Marvel Superheroes, because I've not done that one yet. And this one needs the horizontal view. There we go. So, you've seen Street Fighter Marvel 1, you've seen Marvel vs. Capcom, and yeah, say quite a few companies were trying to do something different with the breakout formula back then, and I think eventually stopped. You did get a few later ones that mixed things up a bit, but still they were all really just break the wall. Even if you look at, say, Toplan's Gox, it's still fundamentally break the wall, even though it's got loads of power-ups surrounding everything. I don't think I played Tracks. I'll have to have a look at that one. Yeah. So let's go with Juggernaut. Let's go with the big character in this game. And this is really what you call a big sprite. What I mean? A big, slow sprite. Yeah, I've had a look at Moonwalker and Midnight Resistance in previous episodes. I think Moonwalker I looked at in the first one because it was said the sound was improved, the sound improvements. And Midnight Resistance I think was requested. It's quite difficult to play without the spinner though. But this one has the mechanic of you picking up these power gems, doesn't it? Which makes it distinct from some of the others. So maybe picking the slowest character in the game is not the best way to demonstrate it, but there you go. And this one isn't the tag fighter like the others either. This is one-on-one fighting, multiple rounds. So a more traditional formula in that sense. So still have the double jumping. So there we go. I've still got to do Mr. Do at some point. I've done some of the sequels, but I've not done the original Mr. Do yet. I imagine that's one that a lot of people would have played. I think this might be my least favourite of the Marvel games at the moment, the Capcom ones. But that might be because I played too much of it back in the day. I think I like the faster pace and tag elements of the other ones that aren't in this one. Yeah, I mean that's. I can believe that as a as a story because the characters do feel like like I say, to me, these characters are perfectly portrayed in what you think of when you think of the characters. So it makes sense that they've heavily used the original material and got in the mood and basically got into character when making the characters. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me to hear that. I imagine that's what Data East didn't do with the Avengers one, because those characters don't have much character, don't have much personality. The animations and everything are, here, they convey who the characters are, the voices. I guess Marvel must have been quite closely involved in the process. If they weren't, then it's even more impressive. It's just a shame the later games got delisted off digital stores, didn't they? I think was it Disney brought up the Marvel stuff? Things like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 just got pulled from the online stores. Luckily I do have that one on disc on the PlayStation, but you couldn't even buy the DLC for it anymore or anything else. It's just like, no. Which is always a problem with licensed content. They can be pulled at any minute just because the license has changed hand or a licensing deal expired. I don't know if they ever came back in any form. It did get re-released later. But, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Not every licensed game is a big loss when it vanishes. There are so many bad ones. You do get the good ones that really... There needs to be some easy way to keep them accessible to people outside of people just playing them in MAME. But I think there are so many that are just destined to be that way because they can't be re-released again because they were tied to licenses at the time. It's one of the reasons I find the plug-and-play ones interesting, and hope we do find ways to get some more of those Jax ones done, because there's no chance of those units ever being reissued. They're just a product of the time, and emulation is going to be the only way to play them outside of the real units. But probably not going to last forever because they're very cheaply built. Not just Marvel licenses, but any licensed content, you're going to have the same problem with. It's also what makes a lot of those educational systems interesting, just seeing how the licenses were used. Again, they're not going to get reissued because kids these days aren't going to want a very dated V-Smile game when they've seen HD versions of their favourite characters and other things. For a big character, this sprite is still well animated too. You do quite often find with the bigger sprites in games. Yeah, famous songs in games too. I mean, the GTA 4 patch took out loads of songs, didn't it? An entire radio station, I think. Again, if you're lucky enough to have a disc and you don't update it, you can still play the game as it was intended. But if you update your game, I think you lose a radio station. It's a bit silly. And also the reissues of games often end up missing content for the same reason. I think they did a reasonably good job of the Tony Hawk one, actually, all things considered. It's got most of the songs people remember on, just one, I think one or two missed. And that was a game that was all about music. They lost too many of the songs on that. Nobody would have cared. I say all about music. The music was a big part of it. People associate the game with certain songs. That's a strange frame of animation. Well, this isn't fair. 3-on-1 fight. Yeah, this one you can just button mash your way through as well, as you're seeing. I've not really have any clue how to play this. I'm just button mashing it, doing big punches, knocking people out, and getting through half the game. And then, of course, there's a massive difficulty spike when you get to the end. But that is fighting games for you anyway. Little stage intros. Maybe a bit of a difficulty bump here too, I don't know. But I'm going to only play this until this credit's out, because there's been quite a long credit. Oh, that was close. Very close. I'd still like to see Capcom do something else with the Red Earth Warzard RIP. I think that could, like, they could make a good RPG out of that or something. I don't think they ever have they? Or, you know, even put some of the big enemies in as bonus characters in other games. I'm sure they have. I think they've used a few of them. I know they have. But it seems to me that's probably the best game on CPS3, and it's the one that was never ported at the time outside of CPS3. That's one for another stream. Again, glad to have seen emulation improvements on CPS3 last year. Got the blending effects right on some of those games. The blending effects aren't extensively used, but they're used for the swords on the later stages of Red Earth, and they were incorrect for player 2 before. Yeah. Juggernaut losers. So that is the third of the Capcom fighters. I probably play the X-Men one on the 3-hour mark, so in about an hour or so. But for now, we're going to move on to some other games. Still don't know how many streams I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to play the Marvel game that's not a Marvel game. Namco's Marvel Land. Now, to me, this is like Marvel Land. You're expecting it to be a Marvel game, but it's absolutely nothing to do with Marvel. It is Marvel as in to Marvel, not Marvel as in Marvel. Also, this one's got an interesting recent discovery from about last year. I think again last year, or maybe the year before, it was discovered that the parent set of this is a prototype because it's got content missing and one of the stages is actually impossible as far as I know. So if you play Marvel Land in MAME, do yourself a favour and actually play the Japanese set, because the Japanese set is complete and the other set is not. This does seem maybe a little bit of a primitive game for the hardware it's running on. The Mega Drive port of this I played once and thought this looks terrible and never played it again. But this is a Namco System 2 hardware game. Namco System 2 is the platform that runs things like Assault, which is a very impressive game. Whereas this is a very ordinary looking platformer, but with some nice little effects thrown in here and there. So See, the rotation Namco System 2 can do is actually used here on that, and I've ended up in the water. But considering, you know, the hardware has all these capabilities, it feels somewhat underused. No, I didn't make it there. See, that's a bit like the Mario flagpole. If you can jump high enough, you get, or jump towards the centre, you get a bigger bonus. And I failed to do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm generally of the opinion that most arcade games don't work that well as home games anyway. I mean, you find out, you know, you've usually seen all the content that's worth seeing very early on. Because with arcades, they want people, you know, they want to put the money into the things people are going to see more so than the later parts of the game that often are just credit feeding. And they don't really have the depth beyond mastering the actual, you know, a small part of the game. It's not like you're going to find an amazing amount of hidden content in an arcade game unless it's sort of an early Taito thing like Rainbow Islands, where for some reason they hid half the game behind special conditions. Pardon me. To me, that's why I don't think Metal Slug 3 is really the most fantastic arcade game ever. I think it's the best in the series of the Metal Slug games. But for an arcade game, there seems to be too much content that most players are never going to see, which is probably why it contributed to SNK's downfall, because so much money must have been spent on that game. I don't know why I'm playing this so badly though. But yeah, you don't want to be spending huge amounts of money on an arcade game, putting loads of content that nobody's even going to see. Yeah, even with just the content you do see, Metal Slug 3 is a very long game and a very tough game. But then you've got all the hidden areas, all the multiple routes, all this, and it's really far more than you ever need in an arcade game, and must have cost a fortune in content that most arcade players would have never seen. I mean, you can argue, you know, that the Neo Geo was a home system BAS too, but so few people own those, it doesn't really change that. Oh. So yeah, I'm not especially good at this game. I don't think this is one of Namco's finest games, but it's one of those. It's rare because it's an arcade platformer, and there aren't that many arcade platformers. It's not a very nice looking sprite. I'm just going to concentrate on trying to actually survive. Thunderhoop 2 has a very similar sort of on-rails level like this. And there you go, there's your nice Namco System 2 rotation effect being put to good use. But, yeah, it's not Namco's standard. The music's alright, nothing special though. The arcade version offers a lot more than the Mega Drive version, because the Mega Drive version doesn't have all the fancy visual effects, so it becomes an even more plain game. the main reason I wanted to put this on was just so that I could mention that thing about the US version being discovered to be a prototype where probably isn't completable. I'm surprised it's not being reparented actually. The US version that's the prototype that you can't complete is still the parent set, and that doesn't make much sense to me. I think it should probably be reparented given that there is no complete English version. There. I don't like the one-hit deaths on any game like this either. So easy just to, you know, run into something and die. And jump into spikes like that, which is very silly of me, but there you go. Yeah, so that's Marvel Land, one of Namco's, oh, I can't really say overlooked. Hey Edson, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. Marvel Land is the theme park, isn't it? That you know, it's attractions to marvel at and all that, rather than anything to do with Marvel. I don't know if Marvel ever said anything about that. I've not researched it. But I think these days, if you try and release a game called Marvel Land, Marvel would go, no, you can't do that. Right, where are we going next? I'm not going gambling games. Shall we stick with Namco? Did I look at this one the other day? I might have done. I think I might have looked at this one the other day, but not taken it off my list. Sticking with System 2, Mirai Ninja. Now, this kind of reminds me of Irem's Ninja Spirit, very fast-paced ninja game. Also Taito's Legends of Kajai, but you don't climb the trees here as far as I know, they're just in the background. But, this is fast-paced. Can't seem to fire in different directions, which is slightly annoying on this one. Again, not one I've played much of. It's one of those System 2 games that I think gets overlooked even by me. Maybe it's just because it's one of those where there are probably better games like Ninja Spirit. I think Ninja Spirit is a great Irem game, whereas this is just a game with ninjas. That's a very Defender-like effect there with the exploding pixels and colour cycle. So again, we've got some colour cycling in a Japanese arcade game. DualSense controller, I've not tried it. That's the PlayStation 5 one, isn't it? I mean, my brother does have a PlayStation 5, so I could probably go and borrow one of the controllers and see if it works, but I've not personally tried it. I imagine if there's a drive on Windows it should work. I mean, MAME supports X input and everything else. You probably wouldn't get any special benefits from it. It would just be a controller. I keep thinking the streetlights are pickups. They're not. Any benefit to killing those? No. We've got another one of these. Nope. Oh dear. I think because that went red, it probably means I'm very low on health. This is quite a Japanese game. I don't really get the settings on this. Oh, Battlecry. Now that's a bad game. If you've never played Battlecry in MAME, don't. If I do a bad game stream, Battlecry will definitely be on it. No, turn around. Yep, that's 0. So yeah, I've never really spent much time with this game. That's a long name. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's possibly the longest high score name I've seen in a while. The longest high score name in any game? No, some of them let you enter a ton of text. Some of them let you draw your high score name, which is kind of interesting, although open to abuse. There we go. Some good music here that I'm sure will get content ID because it's Namco. But there we go. That was Mirai Ninja from Namco. Right. Now I'm wondering what to do next. Let's go back to non-arcade because I am trying to mix things up on the stream a little bit. To the VCS. And a prototype. This is right. This is Meteoroids for the VCS, which is a Supercharger cassette. So you plug your Supercharger module in and you load the cassette, which apparently only takes 17 seconds to load, which is a very short loading time for a cassette. But I'm sure you can guess what type of game this is going to be. Yes, it's an asteroids game. It's got its own built-in scanline effect. I'm assuming that is for performance reasons. You've got 4 different types of game. I don't know what the difference is, but you know you do. But, here we go. Everybody loves a bit of asteroids, don't they? And this is Meteoroids, which is clearly not asteroids. Not in any way. I find the VCS to be an interesting system because it's very different to anything we really grew up with here in terms of the capabilities and how it was programmed. So you can have all these lovely rainbow effects, not necessarily in this game, this hasn't got any lovely rainbow effects. But, you know, everything looks like you've got scanline based effects, whereas on the home computers we had here, you're more used to tile-based effects and everything in tiles, at least until the Amiga with the rainbow stuff. Oops. Yeah, the Supercharger games are some of the Atari games I don't see getting much coverage. And the official Frogger one, because it's a good port of Frogger, does, but a lot of the others weren't released, they're marked as prototypes in MAME. And people are just covering plain 2600, I don't think they want to mess around with Supercharger. But in terms of MAME, it is really easy to get get working. You just insert the Supercharger cartridge into one slot, insert the cassette, and press play in the menu. It will load. So obviously the Supercharger was a way of trying to reduce the cost of distributing the Atari games, you know, third-party ones, by letting companies put them on cassette, which was going to be cheaper than cartridges. Makes sense, really. I don't know if they only took 17 seconds to load on real hardware. I have not researched that. I guess there's not actually much data on most of the Atari games, so it's possible. Whereas with like Spectrum games and the like, you've got up to 128k of code. Well, a bit less because of the system taking up memory. But the Atari games are much smaller. Yeah, this plays well, I'd say. I mean, it's marked as a prototype, but I'm enjoying the gameplay. You've got your little bit of momentum. The collision seems good. The scanline effect it's got going on is a bit odd to see, but you know, it's a playable, fun little Asteroids clone. I think I prefer it over the actual 2600 Asteroids game. It changes the colour every now and again too, like you see. Yeah, it runs fine. Plenty going on, good frame rate. Don't think it has hyperspace, or I mean pressing down does something. I think that's shield maybe? Obviously, whatever it is recharges because it fades back down. I'm going to check. Is it shield? Yeah, it's shield, you see. If I've got the shield on, I can go through things. Although, that was a bit silly. A silly waste of a life there, then. Again, this is why I enjoy MAME, really. You can just go from playing a Capcom fighter to playing an Atari 2600 cassette game and still enjoy it and still appreciate it. Oh, I've still got a life left. I must have got a bonus life at 20,000 or something. I guess the sounds are going to get a little bit irritating, pew 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 pew, but that is how it sounds. But, oh, it's one of those where you've got even another life. Some games, if it shows one life in the corner and you die, that's it. Other games, if it shows one life in the corner and you die, you've got another life. But that should actually be at this time. I should be dead. Yeah. There we go, you see. There are different game modes, but I don't really know what they do. Maybe it's just more difficult. Those asteroids do... Oh. In this mode, I have the hyperspace, which is really bad. Because half the time I end up... So the different game modes give you hyperspace or shields, I guess. I've not explored them all, but I selected game mode 4 this time, and I've got hyperspace this time. But hyperspace is a really useless feature in pretty much every Asteroids game because there's a very good chance of you just landing on something. Never really understood why anybody would use it, because it's usually easier to actually find a way to navigate away from things. But, yeah, okay. What shall we do? I'm looking through the list, and I think I will get another stream out of this. So there are ones I do want to save for another stream. Let's play one I'm not sure how to play. A Taito game I've never spent much time with is Maze of Flott. Now, the only thing I remember about this one, I think this one is one of the few Taito games that doesn't region swap if you change the region. It just crashes, which is unusual because most of them are programmed for every region. But, 89, you say? 89. This isn't telling me much. I have a shop. I have to buy something. I'll buy some smoke. Now, this is a perfectly normal thing to do, isn't it? Drive your car into a shop. I'm assuming I'm not meant to drive on those things. I can't do that. That's ice, so I can't change direction on there. That's a boulder. I'm quite confused by this game. I'm not as confused as when I tried to play Taxi Driver in MAME. With Taxi Driver, I really couldn't work out what I was doing. I appear to be a car that's stealing things. This game doesn't make sense. Yeah, I thought that might be a bad idea. Oh, it opens and closes. Right. So now I have cleared out this store with my car. I leave. And now I've got Rally X smoke. There's a train. Another store that I can... I mean... Can somebody actually tell me what this game is meant to be? I know I can go in all the shops, and I'm the white dot on the map. The yellow dots on the map too, which are gas station. Okay. No, I mean I'm not having to collect dots on the map, unless I've just got to rob all the stores. But, it's not the most obvious of games. You see, I mean, the stores are marked on the map. I'm actually quite confused because it seems like I have to drive into boulders, but they kill me. And I'm not seeing that the marker on the map goes away after I've cleared out a store. I just was impatient. Does it... Crashing through the wall, you see, takes off my gas, but I don't see any other way to get through the wall because I can't fire when I'm inside. I've run out of gas because I crashed into a boulder. Is there something I missed in here? I think I've collected everything. Hurry up. What I've not got to plant a bomb or anything. I don't have any bombs to plant. So I get out the store. Oh, the store has gone off the map now, yeah. So I guess you do have to rob all the stores? This is a strange concept for a game, I have to say. Yeah, it's a bit like Rally X, but you go into the stores with a car and you collect all the treasure that's in the stores? Might have to come back to this one. It's just on that list of Taito games I've never really spent any time with. I thought, well, what is this? Is it a Crazy Taxi clone? It's not, well, not Crazy Taxi clone because it's way before Crazy Taxi. But is it a taxi game? It's not a taxi game. This is probably where the attract mode tells me exactly what to do. Or not. Okay, you go up there. No. The attract mode looks more lost than I am. Well, I was. Anyway, that was Maze of Flott. Maybe it's worth playing. Maybe it's not. Well, that's a little rhyme. But, okay, I wasn't trying to make rhymes. Ooh. Shall we go with the game I'm going to get absolutely destroyed at? Back to Capcom, or Takumi, with Mars Matrix. Another one of those ended up on the Dreamcast, I believe, and people were somewhat underwhelmed because it was a 2D shooter, and people thought 2D was 16-bit and not what they wanted on the new 3D system, along with Giga-Wing. I think this got some quite bad reviews too. And volume needs to go up. Here we go, Mars Matrix. Somewhat ugly pre-rendered shooter that apparently doesn't actually play that badly. That I really should read how to play, because I've never really spent any time playing it. I don't think CPS2 was the perfect platform for doing pre-rendered shooters. Had this been on, say, Psycho's SH2 board, I think it would have looked a lot better. Of course, CPS2 is such a popular platform, it probably sold far more by being on CPS2, so there's that. I'm sure that was a major consideration. You know, you want to get the game to the biggest audience. You go with CPS2 where there's a huge install base of motherboards, everybody knows that Capcom are involved, and you probably sell twice as many copies. So Psycho ended up putting strikers on the Neo Geo, and that's quite an ugly version, but again it must have sold alright. We have this charge attack that tells me that. Don't really know when I need to use it. No, the CPS2 can't do any kind of rotation. If there's anything that looks like rotation or transparency or anything like that on CPS2, it's all a fake effect, pre-rendered. Same in Neo Geo. CPS2 has nice line scroll effects, but it doesn't have any kind of rotation capability. So, you know, it couldn't even pull off that Marvel Land game. Already continued. I don't even like continuing shooters, but I'm not familiar enough with anything to do with the shooter. No, it can't do rotation, it can't do line scroll, so with Marvel Land, with the rotating platforms, they'd all have to be free-rendered if it was on CPS2. So different platforms do have strengths and weaknesses. Neo Geo doesn't even have line scroll or anything like that, it's all sprites, so if you want to do line scroll or any kind of road effect, you're having to use the raster interrupts, which is probably why Riding Hero came out just as badly as it did, because it's the opposite of what the hardware was designed for already. I have no strategy for this game, as you can probably see. Research it first. At least with Giga-Wing I know about the whole deflect shot. This I don't really know what... Okay, I can pull things... This has deflect shot type thing too, okay. Somewhat, or not, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to play this game. I should have paid attention to the tutorial. That's 2 in a row I've not really known how to play. So you know, knowing how to play, not knowing how to play won't save me if I just collide with bullets like that. have to say the shaders do help this look a little better. Without any shaders, this cut is really not pretty to look at. So, yeah, I am deflecting stuff, but then I can only do that once, or I have to recharge something. I'm not entirely sure. It's the bar at the bottom, isn't it? Oh dear. I'm tempted just to quit this one and have a look at it offline and work out what I'm meant to be doing before embarrassing myself any further. Yeah, I think this one is a game where it's probably not much fun to watch because I don't know what I'm doing at all. So let's quit that and play a different Mars. Right, read the other layout. This is just Mars. Strive for the title of Mars. Now this one is quite interesting because it's a dual stick shooter. And it's a dual stick shooter from '81. And no, dual stick shooter from '81. I believe this is before Robotron made the genre popular. But this is more or less Scramble as a dual stick shooter. Also, the music is very, very, very quiet on my headphones. But the sound, the meter is all the way like halfway up. I think there's a big DC offset on the sound on this one, which is confusing my OBS levels. So I don't know if anybody else can hear this, because I can barely hear it, but it's still showing this really loud, and I bet if I turn it up it will destroy the other audio. So, I'm not sure. Ship does appear to be a mine. I don't really know what this has to do with Mars because it's not even a red planet. No, dual stick shooter. I wonder if it's actually a hack of Scramble or if it's an original piece of code. It's Scramble enough like to feel like it could be a hack, but then there's more to it. You know, the missiles have their own little trajectory and track you. It's always difficult to know with these games, especially when they're from smaller manufacturers, this one being from Arctic. Maybe more likely to be influenced by them, bootlegged from. Maybe Mars just isn't really red, or this is Mars in the future when it's no longer red. I got a bonus life for 10,000 points. Probably didn't deserve it. Oh, there's a bullet coming at me. Okay, take a rest and listen to music. I think that's the first time I've heard a game tell me to take a rest and listen to the music. I've done those already, Peter. I might have another look at Missile Command though. So this is like the fourth M stream, so a lot of the better known ones have been covered at this point. Yeah, Missile Command I might give another little look at. It's always fun to have a blast on Missile Command. And I can probably run one of the clones rather than the parent set. There's still quite a few bootlegs of Missile Command that aren't emulated either. They just sat there not working, waiting for somebody to work out what they need different to the main set. I think the non-pokey hookup. Yeah, it's basically on scramble hardware, but it's different to scramble, and say the missiles work differently. It's a dual stick shooter. It's like scramble if scramble's a dual stick shooter, really. Also, you don't seem to go into the caves. M games are just games beginning with the letter M, basically, on anything. Arcade, home, computers. If they run in MAME and they begin with M or in some way or related to the letter M, I've been playing them. That's the only real connection, and I'm not going M for mature. It's just the game begins with M. In this case, it's Mars. I've played Marvel games. I played some Manic Miner for the SAM Coupe. It's just anything M related. And stretching it a little bit. Which game would that be on the NES? I might not do it this time because the NES emulation is a bit hit and miss. I'd probably want to give it a little try beforehand, see how well it runs. But I'll note down Metal Storm on the NES for a future stream. In fact, I'll just add that to my list here. So I've noted that down for next time. And I'll probably have a look at that, see how it works next time. Because say NES can be a bit hit and miss. I don't want to fire up one that's just going to not work well in MAME. Okay, 2 hours 45 minutes. Yeah, I do like Irem games, so I'm definitely interested in trying that. Well, I'll probably try it as soon as I finish the stream, actually, and see what it's like. Okay, so let's put Super Missile Attack on. It doesn't begin with M, but, you know, kind of begins with it. Oh, I need to horizontal it. But we know it's a missile command. I was thinking doing an Irem game in a bit, but it's one of the golf games. I was going to put a bit of Major Title 2 on. Because Major Title 2... that looks like... is that my ship from the previous game? I think it is. Major Title 2 is an interesting one to look at if you're familiar with Neo Turf Masters. Because really it's the prequel to Neo Turf Masters, and some of the elements are still the same. It just doesn't have the nice refined control scheme that Turf Masters had. And the presentation's not quite up there. Oh, In the Hunt is another favourite, yeah. I really like Gallop as well. That's a good Irem shooter, I feel. I'll have to have a look at some of those again at some point. Okay. Maybe Irem didn't develop anything home systems themselves. I mean, that's not uncommon. But they could have had influence in the design and distributed it without programming it. I'll have a look at it anyway. Risky Challenge, that's another Irem game I enjoy. One that strangely also gets cloned quite a lot on those plug and plays. There's several takes on that. This is just Missile Command with lots of changing colours, isn't it? Outer missiles. Bonus City. These These are the worst. You have to get them right next to them. That's often the case. That's if you've noticed with these streams, I've quite often ended up loading up Japanese versions where I've known that to be the case. Or say I started the stream with the Japanese Street Fighter because it's got the extra bonus character. Magical Cat Adventure on the previous stream, I had a look at the Japanese one. Again, it's got the story intro. Also, in general, the Japanese versions of games tend to be the better balanced versions. So, if I know there's going to be a difference, I would definitely go with the Japanese version. Yeah. Alright, so that was a quick bit of super missile attack, which is just a slightly modified version of Missile Command, really. But I didn't want to just retread Missile Command directly. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that, Peter. So I wanted to make sure I got something you were asking about in, because you know, you've helped out a lot over the years, and obviously helped out me a lot personally recently too. Hey Ogre, how you doing? You seem to have arrived fairly close to what will be the end of this stream, because we're running up to 2 hours 50 minutes now, but I do want to get another game or two in. And I'm going to start with the one I just mentioned, which is Major Title 2. Which apparently had a ticket dispenser. Because it's not working. Down the side of it. But yeah, this is basically Neo Turf Masters before it became Neo Turf Masters. It was the prequel, really. And it's still quite loud, so I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit more. But there's certain visual elements that are still the same as well. Why is there a random select when there's only 2 courses? I don't know. So there you go. You see 4 characters, slightly different. Well, you know, is there any game you're looking maybe want me to have a look at quick before I end the stream? You know, you see, this is where you really realise that this is related to Neo Turf Masters. The whole course display is the same. It's just got a much less intuitive control scheme. You select your things along the bottom, so you select your club, then you have to move along here to select your direction, and your stance like that, and your power separately. And if you put the power right up to that, it's really impossible almost to hit the ball where you want. So it's not got the presentation and the refined control scheme that Neo Turf Masters has, but otherwise you can see how it evolved. You know, you can see that this is where Turf Masters came from. Let's get out the rough at least. Oh, I'm back in the bunker. Yeah, it's still a very playable game. It's just you have to get used to it playing differently, especially the controls. I think every change they made from this to Turf Masters was an improvement. It's one of those cases. And if you go back to the original major title, you can see you know, a further earlier iteration where it's even, again, slightly less playable again, but still the same basic game. 30 yards, so I've got to reduce the power here. Still too much power. Yeah, Neo Turf Masters is probably, you know, for a golf game, which you wouldn't naturally think of being fun, it manages to be fun. And you know that's a hard thing to pull off, and it doesn't feel like too credit hungry like the, you know, the IT ones. Golden Tee. On the green, but no speech announcement on the green because it's before they did that. Ooh. I'm definitely going to be on a triple bogey or worse, aren't I? Doesn't have the crowd effects. Oh. Oh dear, I'm doing really badly now. Yeah. Have I got to give up this hole? Yes, I have got to give up the hole. You can see the character art's very similar to Turf Masters as well, because it's the same NASCAR artists, really, isn't it? Yeah, it's the NASCAR art style that went on to be very famous in Metal Slug and the like. This is a difficult one to... So you don't try and hit it like this. This is pot luck if it actually goes. Get it anyway useful. Nope. Whiffed, apparently. Shall I try that again? I hit it this time. Where's it going? It's probably going to go in the water now, isn't it? Heavy, rough. I don't know if the courses were used in Turf Masters as well. I've not compared them. But if they weren't, that would probably be an interesting project for somebody to port the courses to the other game. Pork chop. I do wonder what the Midway skins game's like. It's kind of running in MAME at the moment, but I'm not sure you can control it properly. But that's one I'd be interested in checking out when it works a bit better. Duffed. Oh dear. It's something, this game. Oh, I've got full power on. That was silly. Always remember to check your power before taking a shot. I'm going to fail this course. I'd say I've failed that too. Same sort of continue system. You fail too many, get too far behind, and you have to insert another coin. But yeah. It's just, I just find it interesting because it's so clearly what would eventually become Turf Masters. So, in fact, it's just the Midway Skins thing boot. I mean, it's called Skins Game, but I just want to see if it boots. I think it does boot. Ooh. Press camera or credit to skip tests. This is just me going off track. There's a big gap down the middle of the screen. Competition mode. One player. Oh, not quite full speed, is it? Ish full speed. Okay. What do we do? Need one more credit. Okay. So I've never played this one on original hardware. But it does seem sort of like... And now it's not running at full speed at all. Now it's running at 56% speed. Yeah, it probably needs a few optimizations, doesn't it? And it probably needs a trackball or some kind of custom controller, because you can pull back and do your shots, but there's no precision for it like this. So yeah, technically, performance aside, it does look like this is a playable game. But without a trackball, it's not going to be much fun. Oh, that was an interesting diversion. Right, we're approaching the 3-hour mark, and I did say I would go to the X-Men Street Fighter game technically doesn't have Marvel in the title, so technically not an M game, but it's part of the Marvel Capcom series. So I am counting it. Pending any suggestions in the chat, this will be the final game. And it was mentioned Sabretooth was a favourite character early, so I will be Sabretooth and Charlie. Little bit Wolverine, but yeah, it's been interesting to see if that skins game, the Midway one, does get optimised at all and those graphic issues fixed. Because it looks like it's very close to being a working game. But I don't know, maybe the remaining issues are very tricky ones. Maybe a bit of a change of the scene. Let's go with Mr. Sabretooth again. Again, this isn't one of the ones I played that much of. I've played more of the X-Men Children of the Atom game than this one. Go. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, CPS emulation, aside from some timing stuff, is pretty good. Obviously, you notice on Street Fighter Street Fighter 2 Turbo, because the CPU timing weight states comes into play. But outside of that, yeah, I think, you know, CPS emulation, because the CPS isn't the most complex of hardware. Again, it gets a lot of what it does from the capacity and the good artwork, rather than technically having that many features. There's no complex blending, there's no complex layer mixing, so, you know, it's not really ridiculous and hard to emulate, which is again why I think a lot of people emulated it and why there's so many different CPS emulators. Going from the sort of 99.9% right to the 100% right is just as tricky as anything else, and even MAME's not quite there yet with it. But for most cases, yeah, you're probably not going to see the difference. Yeah, but let's say I'm just used to keyboards more so than anything other control scheme. I'd probably be a better player if I actually learned to play it on the proper hardware, proper sticks, but I don't know. I'm not that good at games on the original controllers anyway. So, possibly not. Oh, up in the air we go. Ooh, no, that's a big blast. Oh dear. The same as any. I mean, most boards are full of custom chips. You just study the behaviour and work out what the games are trying to do, and implement what it looks like it's trying to do. You look at what's in RAM. You see that it looks like tile layout. You work out how the graphic ROMs decode. You see you've got tiles. You render them, and then you look for register rights when things need to be different. So maybe the priority scheme's changed. Same with sound. I mean, the Q sound was recently, last year improved based on studying the decapped code. So the actual 3D effects work properly. Before that, it was all reverse engineered just from looking at the register rights and working out what they were meant to be. So the effects have always been somewhat emulated, just refined properly. You can get a long way without knowing anything. And then you find out more information and improve the emulation. I think the Mr. team working with the decap chips these days, I think they've actually done a lot more. I think there's been a lot more research into the hardware than there was when the system was first emulated. Decaps, understanding it, what's actually on the silicon. And that wasn't even feasible. Nobody thought that was even, it wasn't affordable to start looking inside the chips when CPS was first emulated. But these days, there are people that can do it, and it gets done. I know some of the Mr. stuff is just based on trying to find a way to re-implement what MAME has done in hardware, but I think for the CPS systems it is all done by studying the chips. This was Marvel, and this was X-Men versus Street Fighter. But I think we are heading towards, we're pretty much at the end of the stream now, because I did say I'd do this one on the 3 hour mark, and the streams tend to be 3 hours long. So I do have enough for another stream. I didn't get through as many as I thought I was going to this time. Maybe because I was mixing it with some of the console and computer games. But yeah, I mean, I've got all the Metal Slug games left to do. I've got more Magical Drop games left to do. I've got some Korean games left to do. Yeah, there's Mappy. I'm not playing Mappy yet. So yeah, there's plenty for another stream. I'm not going to continue on tonight because it's 9 o'clock here now, and I'm getting quite tired. I think 3 hours of streaming is enough for me. Just staring at the screen without a break. So I am going to call it there. Thank you to everybody who's joined and had a chat as always. It's been good to be able to talk to people. And I hope you've seen some things you might not have been aware of. If I had to say a highlight of things I really recommend people check out, it would be that X68K game. The what was it called? Let me have a look. The Mikkun Fly game. Definitely give that one a check. Check that one if you like shooters, because it seems like a good one to me. And so thank you, Mr. Drone, and thank you, Red Hot Mackay. And so yeah, thank you, and I'm gonna end it there. So see you next time.